Welcome to Permission to Kick Ass, a podcast about leaving self-doubt in the dust, punching fear in the face, and taking bold action toward your biggest dreams. I'm Angie Coley, and let's get to it. All right, welcome back to Permission to Kick Ass, and I am so excited for this one. I always say I'm so excited for this one, but I'm always excited for this. Welcome to the podcast, my friend Megan Cahak. The name is spelled differently than it sounds, but I love that about you. Would you tell us a little bit about yourself, Megan?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a copywriter. I've been freelancing since 2017. I am an unashamed horse nerd. I have 2 kids. I'm married to a wonderful firefighter. And we have cats and all things. And I don't know, I just love to have fun. That's like my main thing.
Yeah, well, I can tell that too, because we're signed into Zoom and sorry, listeners, you don't get to see this video, but Megan is signed in under her business name, which is Unbridled Ambition. So I had an inkling that you were a horse nerd before we got on the phone. But
yes, and I promise it all makes sense. It makes sense.
So before we got on the call, we were talking a little bit about your history with freelancing and what inspired you to start a business in the first place. And I can't wait to share this with people. Let's just jump right in.
Okay. So in 2015, November of 2015, my husband turned 30 on the 3rd. And later that month, he started getting these really weird headaches. His one eye would black out. He didn't know why. And so he went to his ophthalmologist and to get his eyes checked because he's also blind as a bat. Like he was a cute little boy with the Coke bottle glasses. And so when he takes his contacts out now, he's still that cute kid with the Coke bottle glasses. But so he went in and the doctor was like, your acoustic nerve is not your acoustic nerve, your optic nerve is very swollen and we don't know why, and you need to get an MRI. And so after seeing some specialists, talking to a lot of people, we found out that he actually had an acoustic neuroma, which is a tumor on the acoustic nerve on his right side. And it comes it attaches the ear to the brain. Like that's what communicates hearing. Mm-hmm. And it was big, it was this big tumor. We didn't know why he had it. It was super rare. He was 30 years old at the time. I was 28. Gretchen was 18 months. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be a widow. I thought for sure he was going to die because it was just a really rare tumor to have. But luckily it was not cancerous. So that was a huge win for us.
Yay.
And then after we found out, that was really exciting. We kind of began on this journey of finding a neurologist who was also an expert in acoustic neuromas, which is kind of like finding a needle in the haystack. And I became his advocate and I demanded that we find this really great team. And we did. We actually ended up at Mayo Clinic. He had brain surgery. We made all the we prepped for it legally and mentally and all these things. And he came out the other end and it took 4 months for him to recover. I had to help him learn how to balance again. He kind of learned how to walk a little bit.
Wow.
He knew, but his balance was totally off. And then 4 months after his brain surgery, he went back to be an airport firefighter.
Wow.
And then 3 months after that, he was hired full-time as a career firefighter for our local area. And that's what he's been doing ever since. So I'm super proud of him. He's just he's been through the ringer, and Gretchen and I were there to support him the whole way. But going through that, I was like, man, I worked at corporate. I really loved my corporate family, but I just felt like a caged in animal. There's nothing I could do outside of this 9 to 5. I could not make more money. I couldn't free up my calendar. Taking time off was a really big deal. And so I didn't have short-term disability for something like this. And so, that was 2016. And by fall of 2016, I was like, you know what? I'm going to start a business. And he was like, okay, what are you going to do? And I was like, I have no idea. I'm going to do it. And so I knew I'm a writer. I'm a technical writer by trade. I actually have my degree in it. And so I was like, well, maybe I'll write for people like freelancing or something. And I just started connecting with other women who also wanted to start businesses, but didn't know how to communicate what they did. And so I was like, well, I'll help you. I'll write it for you. And so I kind of became a communications consultant first. And then nobody would like do the work. So I was like, I'll just do it for you. And then we just put it out there. And then that's like, someone's like, oh, you're a copywriter. And I'm like, that's really cool. That sounds like something I want to do. And so I researched it. I got some help becoming this copywriter that I am. I transferred over my knowledge from technical writing to copywriting, and then started taking all these courses and classes and working with other really incredible writers. And that brings me to where I am now. So that's how my freelance journey began. It was out of an emotional necessity, if anything, because I just felt like so out of control when Jake was going through all of that medical or health scare, that I needed to take control of our life in a different way. But as you and I were talking about with freelancing, once you do it and you're by yourself and you're standing in this wide open space, kind of like envisioned myself in a rolling wheat field in the middle of nowhere. And suddenly I'm like, oh, I have to survive out here. So what am I going to do?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the funny thing. Like, we spend so much time in entrepreneurship, and I was taking notes while you were talking because I heard so many good things. We spend so much time like worrying about what the worst case scenario is. And I find it kind of fascinating that you started with the worst case scenario. Like the love of my life is in danger, and I can't sit by stuck in this day job pretending like everything is okay. And like, you actually brought up something that's super important and something that I think is flawed with people that talk about, oh, just start your side hustle. Oh, just make more money. You got an 18-month-old child. You've got a partner who's going through a serious medical ordeal. The answer is not just find a couple hours in your day and see if you could get your hustle on. Like, no, there's no hustle left in a situation like this.
Yeah. Like, I was in survival mode for such a long time, and I learned to become comfortable in survival mode. So when I'm not in survival mode, I have to like rewire my brain to say like, this is okay. This is okay. You know?
It's okay to have some downtime. It's okay to relax. I was talking about that with somebody yesterday who said, when I get to kind of status quo, I'm hesitant to even go beyond that because it feels good just to have gotten here. Right. And I was like, I totally feel that. So I thought that was a great point that you made about that you've got this 9-to-5 job. Taking time off isn't an option. As many businesses say that they've got their businesses set up to support someone to take off, they really don't for the most part. And dealing with FMLA, Family Medical Leave Act, is a nightmare. If you don't have short-term disability insurance, you're going to be eating that or taking your vacation, which I am a firm believer that vacation time should be earmarked for vacations and not used for sicknesses or illnesses. It's bullshit. And the other interesting thing that you brought up was how you kind of fell into communications consulting. You said something that, I'm kind of laughing at it, but I loved it. That like they wouldn't listen to what I was saying, so I offered to do it for them. Okay, so all of you that are listening to this, welcome if you find yourself in a consulting role to business. They will pay you a lot of money and not listen to you at all. Right. And this is something that you either have to make peace with and be like, okay, well, I've taken the money. I have delivered some excellent advice. I really hope that they go and do something with it. And if they don't, I let it go. Or you can take Megan's tactic and be like, nope, I do not let this go. I'm going to do it for you. You need to do this.
Oh my gosh, I am the queen of never letting things go. I'm just the way it needs to be if you want these things. And for some people, it works really well. Other people are like, get away from me, Yeah. Well,
and I think that kind of tenacity and that kind of determination is really appealing to certain kinds of clients. And this kind of goes back to something I'm fond of saying with my coaching students all the time is like, people like working with people they like. Mm-hmm. So first and foremost, be yourself when you're out there starting a business. If you are an unabashed horse nerd who likes to tell people, no, this is how it's got to be, that's how you build your business. And you will actually attract the people that really resonate with that.
Yeah. And I can honestly say for like 95% of my clients, I would have so much fun if we could all sit around a campfire and drink some beer and just chat. Like those are the types of people, like if you can't sit down with me and like have a beer, chat around a fire, be outside, then we probably won't work well together because, and this is maybe something I should work on. But my like boundaries for clients we're kind of at a friend level. Like I'm going to tell you what to do and I'm going to do the work and be real professional about it. But I'm also going to share some memes with you. We're going to laugh a lot.
That's my favorite pastime.
Right. And we're going to have a ton of fun and there's two reasons why I do that. Like for one thing, I love to have fun. Like if it's not fun, what are we even doing here?
Exactly.
And secondly, it helps me pick up on these subtle like personality traits that people have that tells me more about who they are as a person. And it allows me to write better copy for them.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Kind of like my secret weapon. I'm like, we're going to have so much fun and it's going to be amazing.
I love that that's your approach. And I've said that too. And I don't, you mentioned a boundary issue. You've probably got, I'm making some assumptions, some good boundaries in place. Because I imagine that just because you'd hang around a campfire talking beer doesn't mean that you're going to call them and be like, everything is falling apart and I really just need a friend right now. Like you still have your friends for that.
Right. I would never, ever. I don't want them to call, like, unless something really emergency happens with their business, please don't call me crying about your mother-in-law.
Yeah.
Right.
So we still have boundaries in place, but I treat my business the exact same way, which is, all of the people that I work with are people that I would love to grab a beer with, have a meal with, hang out, go to a concert. Yeah. I wound up so you and I hung out at the last Copy Chief Live before everything shut down. After that, a bunch of us went to this cool show because it was Halloween called Here Come the Mummies. And we just hung out watching the show. Them. They're fantastic.
They're so good.
Unsolicited plug for Here Come the Mummies. If you want dirty, dirty jokes in the form of amazing funk songs, that is your band. And while dressed as mummies, that's your band.
Yeah, because they're all part of different bands that are like NDAs, so they can't like show who they are. Our kids love them, which I don't know if that makes me a really good parent or a bad one.
I think it makes you an awesome parent.
They know most of the words of the songs.
So I think Here Come the Mummies is fine. If you take it up to Steel Panther, you're probably pushing.
Steel Panther it blows my mind. So my husband, we laughed so hard when we listened to Glory Hole was the first one he ever let me listen to. And I was like, what in the fuck is this? It was horrible and I could not stop watching. Like
Weenie Ride is still my favorite one since it's such a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful piano ballad. Weenie, 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 weenie ride.
It is so inappropriate and so good.
Oh, yeah. You would probably appreciate this. When I went to Columbia a few years ago with a bunch of other copywriters, we had two house songs. One was Careless Whisper by George Michael, with that lovely sax solo that we all know and love. And the second was Weenie Ride by Steel Panther. So,
oh my God.
Welcome to Permission to Kick Ass, the podcast with all kinds of musical tangents.
If you're bored, don't Google it at work, but look up Glory Hole by Steel Panther. Mm-hmm. You're welcome.
And definitely watch Here Come the Mummy. Like listen to all of their songs. You will
the Santa one this year we had on repeat. It was so Jake also does this thing when he drops off the kids called the Enter song. So they play a song all the way to school and they jam out to it like they're entering a stage.
Nice.
And for Cameron, it was the Secret Santa from Here Come the Mummies for a very long time. And now it's Hakuna Matata trap mix. Like
I didn't even know that was a thing.
So Jake is also super fun. Like we're so great together because I think he makes me fun, but maybe I'm giving too much credit.
I'm getting a vibe that you have a certain amount of fun that you bring to this picture. Well, that brings me back to one of the good points that you made earlier is like, if I'm not having fun doing this, why would I even do this? Because I see so many people that jump into freelancing and then all they do is bitch, complain. Like my clients suck. I hate them. Well, why are you working with people that you can't stand working with?
Right.
And I know that that's like easier said than done because it's really scary to just like fire people that you don't like working with and trust that somebody else is going to come along. But like, I want long-term working relationships with these people.
Right.
And to be able to check in with them like a couple years later, hey, we haven't spoken in a while. Just thought of you today. Wondering how you were doing. Hope you're doing well. Bye. And
yeah, for sure. Me too. And I think it's kind of cliche for me to say it, but after going through what Jake and I kind of like went through together with him being so sick and me supporting him and the family through that time was like, that was miserable. And I never want to feel that way again. And so I do everything in my power to not feel that way, which is kind of funny because I mean, sure, I have like these spouts of anxiety in business because
as do we all.
You know what I did the other day? So I was super stressed out with getting my work done, and I got done riding my horse, and I was trying to train him with the trailer because he's got anxiety about the trailer, and he would not get in. And I just like broke down in tears, and I cried in the trailer with my horse looking at me for like 30 minutes because I was so upset about my life for that moment. And then I was like, okay, I'm good now. I'm good.
Sometimes you got to get it out. Sometimes fighting it is what makes it that much worse. Like,
oh yeah,
just got to embrace it.
What's wrong with you? They're just dogs. Horses are just giant dogs, you know. So.
I have the same experience with my cat, who I'm surprised hasn't interrupted the podcast by now. But I think everybody that has been in my world for a certain amount of time is familiar with Stella and her attention whoring antics. I've had breakdowns and like ranting moments and screaming moments that this cat just looks at me like, what is your problem?
Chill, girl.
Do you need to love me? Here I am to make you feel better.
Here, let me rub my butt on your face. That'll make you feel better. That's what they do. You just like walk by and then it makes you laugh or like, get out of here. And then the moment's like, okay, this helps.
Tension relief. If only humans solve problems in that way.
Oh,
would showing you my butt make you feel better right now? Okay.
Well, that would be funny if it was a person, but that I don't think that's like socially acceptable.
Yeah, it's very, very highly inappropriate. This is going to be subtitled The Inappropriate Show, but I'm loving every minute of it.
Oh, it's so good.
Well, because you would probably appreciate this too. I joked with a coach of mine not too long ago about how I can't wait to get permission to kick ass to such a level that I get to have retreats with people, because retreats has long been a dream of mine in terms of my own business development. Mm-hmm. And she challenged me. She goes, okay, what kind of retreat do you want to do? I was like, I don't want to do the typical like tropical islands. We meditate. Everybody goes on a cleanse stuff. No offense to anybody that's woo-woo like that and that's your jam. Cool. Go enjoy that. My style is more like, okay, it's a pandemic, but I still want to hang out with my people. So if we could all just zorb right now, if we could just pack ourselves in plastic bubbles and go running headlong down a hill, or that's my kind of retreat. Go do something fun, zip line through a jungle. Those friends that I went to Colombia with, we all went parasailing. We jumped off a mountain. And it's like,
that sounds terrifying.
It's terrifying. And then when you get together after the fact and have like a pizza and a beer after you jumped off a mountain,
the adrenaline is just like probably through the roof. But also, I mean, that drops so many good endorphins into your brain.
Absolutely.
Suddenly you're feeling invincible.
Well, and it's a good reminder too, because to go back to what you were talking about with anxiety, so often we get so wrapped up and our world gets like so small and so focused on the issues that we're dealing with right now, which is not a bad thing in and of itself. But like when your world gets so small and contained and you're having trouble seeing around it, I like to do what I call making my world bigger. And so that's usually when I'll go out and do something like that proves to me, okay, I'm feeling like my life is in danger right now with the pressure I'm putting on myself, but I'm not actually in danger.
Yeah.
Or, I'll go out and I'll do some volunteer work, help pull weeds for a church, help on a soup kitchen line. For a while I did calls for a domestic violence hotline, which was really rough, but it helped me to remember to put the challenges that I'm facing in perspective, and that there's a way through. That's not the end of my life.
You're like, the way you deal with that part of anxiety is very wholesome. The way that I deal with it is like, I'll find something that I can control and then I'll go do that. Because it just is like a sense of like, what can I do right now in my world? Like what's possible? What do I have control over? And then I'll go do it. Whether it's house stuff or talking to people, or I don't know. Yours is very wholesome though.
Well, and that's not what I do all the time. I'm not, trust me, I'm not that altruistic, but that's like, That is my go-to when I'm like super stuck in like my problems feel like the end of the world. Okay, go remind myself that there's bigger things in the world than me. When I'm dealing with like work stress or clients are frustrating me, because it happens, like newsflash, if you're getting in this business because you think being a freelancer is going to make you happy 100% of the time, wrong. Like that's not how this works. If you can get to 80-20, where you're happy with your work like 80% of the time and you're only bitching and venting and frustrated 20% of the time, you're in the sweet spots. But like, every choice has its pros and its cons, including freelancing. So like, don't jump into this thinking that you're in happy fun land and there will never be any problems.
Yeah. Like consequence or like feelings of not being happy do not disappear when freedom enters your life. Mm-hmm. I mean, we were kind of talking about that too, before we jumped on here is, everybody, so people, a big driver for entrepreneurs is I want freedom. I want freedom of time and money and all these things. I'm like, yeah, that's great. But I just want you to know that freedom of time is not a real thing unless you like put it in your head that you have to like discuss with yourself what freedom of time means for you personally. Like it doesn't mean the same for everybody. And sometimes freedom of time is debilitating because you are suddenly responsible for all this time and you still need to make things work. Like it's crazy how much more I work now that I do work for myself than I ever did before. Yeah. And sometimes I think to myself, good Lord, what did I do?
Well, it's fun. Like I'm going to start a business and then, 4 days of Netflix later, nobody's coming along to write you up for not doing the work. You have to have the awareness and the motivation to pick yourself up off the couch and go do the work. And we were talking about managing anxiety and stuff like that. There are times where I've had a frustrating moment or I'm overwhelmed. I'm verging on burned out because I had a busy period or something. And I do just want to sit on the couch and watch Netflix. My latest obsession as we're recording it. So we're recording this in March. It's going to air in a few months. I just binge watched The Expanse on Amazon.
Oh, I don't know that one.
Space drama. It's fantastic. Very, very good show. And I have to get up and kind of hit the reset button sometimes when I'm getting stuck. And so I sat down to watch an episode over lunch. 3 episodes later, oh shit, I got stuff to do. So I have a reset routine. And I don't know if you have anything like this either, but I'll usually like take a power nap, get up for like 20 minutes so that I don't fully fall asleep. Get up, brush my teeth again, drink a big glass of water. And then it's like I started the day over again.
Oh, no, I don't have that. I think my reset routine is if I can't get in the right mindset to write and I keep getting distracted and I'm sitting at my computer and nothing's coming out, I will go outside barefoot, no matter what the temperature is. I'm in Wisconsin and I did this in the winter.
In the snow?
And I did. It feels great. But it kind of like wakes up my senses and like grounds me. And then I'll move my body. So whether it's going to see my horse, he's a great reset button, but he's also uber distracting. Or I'll work out. And then typically though, by that time I have to go pick up my kids, but it resets me for the next day. That's how like, it works for me. And sometimes like right now, I'm in a long-term reset routine. Like I'm super burnt out and from a couple months ago. And I don't know if you remember in Accelerator, I talked about this a little bit. I was not charging enough and doing so much work. And then I lost a client for really dumb reasons. And, but it was a blessing in disguise. It always is. And I want people to know that like when something doesn't work out the way you think it should, don't force it because something much better is coming your way. Like you just got to make the space for it.
Yeah. One of my friends put it in such a great way. It's not happening. Maybe it's not happening to you. It's happening for you.
Right.
To like get you to the next step. And you've been through coaching with me before too. And so, you know, that this is one of my rants with the students. So like sometimes you have to create the space for the opportunity to come to you. You kind of have to show the universe or whatever powers that be that you're ready for this and have the courage to walk away because nature abhors a vacuum. So like if you literally create a space, you're inviting something to come in and fill that space. But if you don't give it space and then you're hoping something comes along and then now you've got two things and you're afraid to let go of one in case the other one falls through too. Like,
you just can't do that. I can't live that way.
Mm-hmm.
But like, so my long-term reset is, I got super burnt out. And now I'm kind of getting to this point where I've made the space and I am starting to see things come together. Because remember, I told you I was super jacked today because a really cool opportunity came across my feed.
Yes.
And it was for a full-time position. And then I called and I was like, what about this? What if we made it contracted? You'd save so much money and I could get, the income that's necessary. And she's like, I really love that idea. So if I hadn't given myself the space or didn't have an open mind of even looking at full-time positions and kind of pitching my idea, I would have never seen that. I know I wouldn't have seen it because it wouldn't have been front of mind.
Well, and there's a lot of good stuff in there and I want to unpack it a little bit. So you saw somebody in your feed advertising a full-time role. And I think it was communications. You said like a communications.
It was
director,
a marketing
director.
Yep.
Okay. Marketing management. And so you went to this person and said, hey, I saw that you have this role open. This is actually what I specialize in. I propose this kind of deal where I work for you. Basically, like I work for you as a freelancer instead of as an employee. And they were like, yes.
Yes.
And so
small business. Oh, she's a small business. So they would have to individually buy health benefits for people. And that's uber expensive. And then I said, what if we did contracted? Because it also lifts it lifts all the responsibility off of her and puts it onto me, like to get the job done too. Like she's not going to ignore me, but she would have one less person to manage basically. Cause I'd come in as a professional and say, this is what we're going to do.
Well, and I think that's great because I think a lot of people would shut themselves down because they put that role in a box, right? Oh, that's a job. I can't apply for that because I don't want a job. Or if I reach out to them and propose that I work for them contract, they're going to say no. Well, you don't know if they're going to say no until you start the conversation. Sometimes the job listing is exactly what it says. Sometimes it's a lot more flexible than they make it sound. So, and then the third thing is I think a lot of people get stuck they get sucked in by marketers like us. You have to have a system. You have to have this prospecting. You have to run cold ads. Here's what you do to get business. Sometimes it could be just as simple as paying attention to what happens across your newsfeed and going, oh, that sounds really good. I wonder if she'd be open to working, and reaching out and literally letting it. I love how circular this whole conversation is because letting it be a relationship with somebody cool and seeing if you can help each other versus I've got to have this ideal lead magnet and the attraction system coming in. And sometimes it doesn't work. But I got one of my very first clients. I don't think I've actually told this story in a recorded medium before, but some people have heard me say it. One of my first paid clients I got as the aftermath of a date.
Oh, no.
We were on a date. We shut down the bar talking about business. He had this startup that had just gotten funded. I had just started my freelance business. The next day we were talking a little bit and decided, we're not really feeling the romantic vibes, but hell, we had a hell of a lot of fun. And he wound up hiring me to write a press release announcing that his company had just got funded. And so it was like, okay,
good.
I certainly didn't go to a date with like a pitch deck and here's why I should be your copywriter. I didn't even know what he did when we sat down for dinner, but like be open to the fact that business opportunities are everywhere. And, if you can get comfortable talking with people and talking about what you do, you might find yourself with unexpected sources of business.
Well, and I think that's a testament to being, to really practice your ability to have conversations with people. Because within conversations, there's always opportunity, whether it's with them or someone they know.
Yes.
And or an opportunity to make a friend. And so with every really, really exciting job that I've gotten, it's either been through an acquaintance or a conversation of me just like reaching out to someone. And I gotta admit, like I'm pretty ballsy. Like I will reach out to anybody. I've done it with like these millionaires and I'm like, oh no, you're not a good fit kind of thing. But some people I'm like, hey, I really like your stuff. I just wanted to tell you I'm a big fan. And then it'll start a conversation and they'll be like, oh, you're a copywriter. Like one of my ongoing clients, actually, that's how we started working together. I don't know if I can say the name of the company or not, but I can give them a shout out. Dreamers and Schemers.
Fantastic.
They are a fun sock company. And that's how I met them. I'm like, hey, I really like your stuff because they have hilarious horse boot socks, like for riders. So like riders don't get a lot of opportunity, especially English riders, to express themselves with what they wear because it's all like uniform and, you know, classic, blah, blah. But we have these hilarious socks that they can wear under their boots. And I have 2 pairs. And one of my pairs it says send nudes on it. And it's a picture of noodles. And nudes. But it's just kind of funny. And it's a fun way for them to, express themselves. But anyways, like having those conversations is important. And then like with today, with that other opportunity, another horse brand, surprise, was, you know, I already had a relationship with her because I'm like a bad penny. Like if I like you, I'm stick around and I'm going to keep chatting you up a little bit. And then if you ever hire in the future, I'm like, hey, like you ever seen the meme of Kim K, like looking behind the bushes?
Yeah.
That's me. Like she's hiring and I'm like, what? Like, here I am. So
I'm going to find a way to put that GIF, whatever. Don't at me. I don't care. I'm going to find a way to put that in the show notes so that people know what we're talking about. But
oh, yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, my life is just memes.
Me too. I speak it as a second language. I have one for just about every situation.
That's a true gift. You know? And pretty soon, the future of copywriting is gifts.
Pretty much. Like if you can find ways to speak in pictorial form, you're a genius. And that's like genius. All of this is so great too, because I think we get this impression of like either business has to be hard, business has to be a slog, has to be a grind, you have to burn out, like you have to pay your dues. And I mean, all of us go through it at a certain point, but it's kind of when you're willing to push back against it and say, no, this doesn't have to be my reality. I'm going to go have fun with this ridiculous sock company.
Well, yeah. And that kind of like, so the gift of conversation is what helped me get really exciting roles. It also is what helps me write for people. And then if I write in a way that is conversational for a client, that client always makes more money. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's kind of like my big advocate, like be a human and you'll make more money, you know?
That's my biggest pet peeve when people want to do like the corporate drone thing. And it's probably because I used to buy into that pretty hardcore when I was in my corporate job, trying to be dressed up and stuff like that. It was just totally not who I was. And I think it really stifled a lot of my energy and my creativity. And when I started, you know, we talked offline a little bit about how we met, which was through a community called Copy Chief. And shameless plug for Copy Chief, which I love. But that was the community that I joined where I still tried to be a little bit buttoned down when I was first in there, if you can believe it. I was trying to be professional. This copywriter people could respect and admire, but every once in a while, the curtain would come down a little bit and I'd start getting very ranty, very passionate about something. Yeah. And it wasn't very long before a lot of the coaching students that I wound up having through Copy Chief were like, Angie rants. We need, please get up on a chair and yell some more.
I love when you rant. There's that one group and you know which group. And there's always like once in a while, you'll drop in such a good rant and I'll be like, yes. You know? And then I'll like DM you and I'll be like, this was so good, you know, because man, we need the Angie rants. They're gold.
And my rants are, you know, if you haven't been subjected to them yet, welcome to the club. Sign up for Angie rants. It's going to be amazing. Mine are like that's positive
really sequence. Angie rants. Go
Angie
on.
Rants. Yeah. They're positive. Like I don't rant at you to make you feel like shit. That's never my goal because I don't think criticizing people in a mean spirit, trying to one up people, like speaking of Angie rant here in action, here we go. Like trying to one up people, trying to prove them wrong, trying to be this badass know-it-all that, you know, you're wrong. I'm right. I'm going to prove it to you. Argumentative instead of cool. You're having the total opposite effect.
Yeah.
I mean, you can approach someone with a sense of compassion and be like, you know what? I understand why you think that way. Here's another perspective to consider. Have you thought about that?
Write those words, those exact words. I've seen it.
That's my favorite tactic. Have you considered that this might also be true?
Yes, it's so good because so that's the only way that you can really, if you're going to change someone's mind, you have to come at them with honey.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, if you come at them with this really aggressive, like, tone, it's just like the walls will come down. But with honey, you got some honey, you're gonna sit down and talk about it, and you're like, oh yeah, I guess I could see that perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's such a good approach.
And I think there's almost a revolution that's happening right now, because historically our industry in sales oriented marketing, like very direct, I have a thing, buy it. And we make a persuasive argument to that effect. There's almost a reckoning that's happening right now within the industry where those aggressive sales tactics, the companies that, are the biggest advocates for that are having to backpedal and recognize that, like, okay, maybe pushing our shit on people isn't the approach. Maybe finding the people that really need this and coming from a place of, I give a damn about you and I want to help, is the way to go. And that's what I've been saying all along. So this feels like vindication for me.
Total vindication. Well, that's, like the emotional piece of it is something that I talk about a lot. And I've been following my own advice and starting to email my list daily.
Yes.
And I just talked about what makes you a really good copywriter. And it's not that you have like this gift to have like these really witty taglines off the top of your head. And it's not about having punchy, direct sales, this and that. It's about finding a way to emotionally connect with the audience. And when I say emotion, I always think people right away go to like the sympathetic emotion. That's not what I'm talking about. Like, emotion can be happy. It can be passion. It can be anger. I mean, whatever. I don't really write angry, but you know what I mean? Having the ability to use emotion in your writing is way more effective than that pushy sales. And that's my approach all the time too. And I've also found that clients, even though they say they want emotional copywriting, they don't really understand it. And it's really, they have a hard time believing it's going to be effective until they see it in play. And they're like, oh, okay.
Or they have this mistaken impression of what emotional copy is. Like I did a critique for someone the other day of a sales page that he had, and it had things like, you have to take advantage of this. It's like printing free money. And I was like, you don't have to take advantage of it. Like, first of all, take advantage. They used words like exploit. And I'm like, okay, so that
sounds like very like over the line.
It sounds very aggressive. It sounds very manipulative. It sounds like you are at war with your customers and not actually trying to help them. So it's like just a couple of little language tweaks and this thing could work for you. But I want you to pay attention to the words you're using, because I wouldn't get on the phone with somebody like that, like you and I are talking right now on a Zoom call, and be like, how can we exploit this recording that we're making right now?
That would make me uncomfortable.
The whole reason that I'm putting together this show, and it is a massive undertaking to put together a podcast, is because I want to help people that listen to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if it turns into a business, I'm hoping it turns into a business. That's what I'm working toward. Woohoo! Hell yeah. Absorbing retreats for everybody.
Bring your beer and the nacho cheese.
And the Steel Panther. And we'll meet at the Here Come the Mummies concert.
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. No, I think that's really cool. And with the emotional piece of it, I think that's what makes entrepreneurship work too. If you lean into the emotional part of why you're doing something, kind of like circling back all the way to the beginning of why I am here, it's going to work. It only feels forced when you kind of lose your way. And the same goes with copy. Like, if you lose your way of why you're there and what you're trying to do, it feels forced. But when you allow yourself to lean into like helping people or making a difference or just creating a bond, it just flows so much easier and it converts better too.
Mm-hmm. And that's such a great point, because if I could wrap up pretty much everything that we said today, it would be, business isn't easy, but it doesn't have to be hard. Mm-hmm. It can be simple. It doesn't need to be a fight.
Right.
If you're banging your head against the wall, maybe try another path that might actually, it's my favorite saying, like, if you're banging your head against the wall, maybe try opening the door, because your forehead is probably not the best way to get through this wall.
Well, I love that. Yeah. Oh. No, it is really good. And you're right. Business doesn't have to be hard. It's challenging. It can be anxiety provoking. That's why you surround yourself with a community like Copy Chief.
Shameless plug.
But really, I mean, in all honesty, so I told you before we recorded, my hardest year was 2018. And it was before Copy Chief. And it was my son was a couple months old. So Gretchen was older. Then we had Cameron. And I remember like just not having any money, and I had no clients, and I was in this really dark place of postpartum depression and anxiety and like these. And I remember staying up all night long, like crunching numbers and trying to figure out how I'm going to do this and that. And that was just like my postpartum anxiety, like was in high gear. But I got help for it. I did see a doctor. I got the therapy I needed. And then I started like exploring my copywriting world. And I don't know, by the grace of God, with Copy Chief, Kevin popped into my newsfeed, and I was like, what's that? And I bought a ticket without ever listening to a single thing that he said. I didn't know anything about Copy Chief, but I was like, I am going.
Nice.
And it was expensive. It was a huge investment. My husband, I had not been out of the house yet since having Cameron. So going down to Florida was a big deal for me. That was my first plane ride by myself ever. I'm 33, you guys.
Wow.
I was like I felt like this frumpy mom from Wisconsin that's coming to Copy Chief. And I was just like, hey guys, I'm here.
I remember meeting you at that event. I didn't have any inkling that was what was going on in your life, like at all.
That was horrible. But 2018 was my hardest year. And then meeting the community, it just opened so many opportunities. And I remember even having the conversation with Jake. He's like, I hope this makes you money, because we really were in a bad spot. And it totally did, though. In a non-direct way. It was an indirect. Yeah. It was like, I got all these jobs. I didn't walk away with like thousands and thousands. I walked away with a lot of really great conversations in community and meeting people. Like I met you, and then I met Chris. I got to meet Laura Belgray. I was like, she's hilarious. Fangirl over her. I'm so excited to meet you. Who else? Who else did I meet? Who is Chris's partner in crime with everything? He does a lot of work with her. She does a cheese business now. I'm having
Abby Woodcock. Yeah.
Abby. Oh my gosh, Abby. I met Abby, and then Marcella invited me to the Titanides dinner. I did not. And she's like, you should just come. And I was like, okay.
Well, and that's the funny thing about, because a lot of people, I think, if they go to an industry conference, they either go with this idea of, I have to make money, I have to sign a contract, which is, don't go, people can smell that shit on you. Come out, don't go on a business card dropping like come there to make the relationships that Megan and I have been talking about this entire, the episode is all about connection. Yeah. I think really. So go to a conference to make a connection. Business will come of it if you're genuinely connecting with people and talking about what you do with passion. And then be open to following the path. Like take the next step, not knowing if the path is going to veer off to the right somehow. But I fell into copywriting by accident. Mm-hmm. And every step forward gave me a couple of options, and I'd make a choice and take a couple more steps. And that's how I wound up where I'm at today. So I love that you told that story of going to Copy Chief and you didn't know what to expect. You hadn't been listening. You were new to the world. So you hadn't listened to Kevin yet. No. Didn't know who to talk to, but met people there that invited you to things. You went to the thing, you took a chance and made more connections there. So like sometimes it's just taking the steps, not knowing how it's going to pan out, but being willing, opening up that space like we talked about and telling the universe, okay, put something here that I can work with. Thank you, please.
Yeah. Well, and I felt pretty numb to like the feeling of risk at that point, just because I had such a crazy last couple of years. That bravery, I'm outgoing, but I'm not always brave. Mm-hmm. And something that felt risky a couple of years ago, I was kind of numb to it at that point. So I was like, it'll be fine. Yeah. It'll be fine. That was my first Uber ride. I've never taken an Uber until I was in Florida by myself.
We have a very similar story. My first industry event was back in 2012 or 2013, I want to say. So I was pretty new. I'd been in the industry for less than a year at that point. And I had decided that I really wanted to go to a John Carlton action seminar. And I didn't have any money for this. There was no room in the budget. There wasn't even credit cards that I could charge this to. There was no way I was going to make this happen. So before GoFundMe was a thing, I turned to Indiegogo and created this random campaign to raise the money to go there, which I was ashamed of. Like, I hid this for years and years and years. In fact, that I raised money to go there, and I wasn't this super successful copywriter showing up like, well, look at me, I'm fancy. I think I told Kevin and some other people that I had done that once upon a time. And then I found the link, which is still live if you go stalk it. I wrote $5 haikus for people. Like, that's how much I was like, I will go. I will write you a haiku.
Though. That is, I don't think you should be ashamed of that at all. I think that's awesome.
I'm not anymore, but that's why I'm so passionate about getting people out of their head and realizing like the shit that you're obsessing about isn't real. It isn't the real story here. Because when I see it now from the other side of like, somebody wants to work with me, they want me to hire them. If somebody went to that effort and created a campaign and wrote $5 haikus, I dedicated songs at karaoke to people for like $20 or would film them a $20 video of me singing on the phone. Like, I did all kinds of goofy stuff. And just by putting myself out there, I not only hit my goal, people were reaching out to me privately, offering to do different projects and stuff like that. And I raised the money and then some to get there and back. Mm-hmm. I was still broke as shit while I was there, but at least it wasn't putting me in debt.
Yep.
And later on, like within a couple of weeks, I got a $2,500 project that more than paid back everything. Like, it was crazy. Amazing. So sometimes just putting yourself out there and not really knowing how it's going to work is the thing. Yeah. And then that's how Kevin and I have this joke. Like, I met him before and we didn't really know each other back then, but I was like, I was kind of stalking you around the bar at that event. Like, oh, hey, you're at the bar again. Look, I happen to be here as well. Hi. Fancy meeting you here.
Hello. Yeah, I totally stalked him at Copy Chief. I was like crowding around the circles, weaving my way in. I was like, well, hi. And I introduced myself. And then I had nothing else to say after that. I'm like, I'm Megan. And that is it.
Sometimes that's the way it works. Like I said, I joked with him because that was like 2012 or 2013. And I didn't get involved with his community until like 2015. Yeah. So like, we met once and it's fine. And then it was years later that we actually made the connection that developed the relationship. So sometimes that's the way it goes.
Like, introducing yourself to another human is totally normal.
Yes.
And I think that we get it in our heads that we can't approach certain people. It's like, no, you can't. I'm pretty sure. Remember is it the funnels people, the funnels guys? They're super uber successful. Yeah. Who was it? Well, it doesn't even matter. I totally thought he was somebody else at the event. And I came up to this millionaire and I called him by the wrong name. And he was like, I'm actually so-and-so. And I'm like, oh, what's up, man? I had no idea who he was until he got up on stage and was like, we brought in millions of dollars. We have blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh my God, you're really successful. Good for you. You know?
That's one of the big, because I've worked for some big names myself and I've had a lot of people that are on the newer end of the spectrum. Oh my God, how do you work for such a big name? Like, no differently than I'd work for any other name. Right. I mean, they get the same amount of effort from me, the same amount of passion and dedication. A name is just a name. Treat them like people. They'll appreciate you.
Right. And then it'll just open so many more doors because if they meet somebody cool that can treat them like people, they know that you'll be able to treat their friends like people.
Absolutely. This is such a good episode. I could keep talking to you forever. I'm going to cut it short now, though, and promise that we're going to have to do this again because it's been fantastic. So, Megan, tell us a little bit more about where to find you.
Well, so I'm on Instagram barely, but I am there. You'll see me posting memes in my stories. I am posting in my feed now. Unbridled Ambition is the name. And then otherwise, my website is www.unbridledambition.com. I'm there. So always just shoot me a message, say hey or whatever, and I'll answer you. I answer everybody's emails.
Hit Megan up if you need memes, gifts, or horse jokes.
Yes.
That is your order of the day.
Horse facts. Yeah.
All right. Thanks so much for being on the show, Megan. This is fantastic. And I will talk to you soon.
Yes, it was so much fun.
So that is it. Another awesome episode of Permission to Kick Ass on the books. If you want to know more about the show, if you want to know more about me, Angie Coley, and the mission I'm on to help entrepreneurs punch fear in the face and do big, bold things, then head on over to permissiontokickass.com. That is all one word together, permissiontokickass.com. Make sure to sign up for my email list so that you know whenever there's a hot, fresh, and ready podcast episode out for you. And also on Mondays, I like to send out a little newsletter called Kick Monday's Ass. I'm sure you're totally surprised by that. So thank you for being here with me today. I'm Angie Coley. Make sure that you share this with a friend that needs to hear this message today. Like it, share it, comment wherever you're listening to this today, and let's go kick some ass.